I'm the Massachusetts State Honey Queen, which is kind of like the coolest thing to be able to throw around and claim. Every state has a honeybee association, and most of them have an advocacy position called a state honey queen or ambassador if you're a male. And the idea is that you are an advocate for beekeepers and honeybees throughout the state, and sort of almost an educational role where you get to talk with people about how great and how blessed we are to have these amazing insects.
Here a bee would only go to a single tree out in the middle of the forest or edge of the field, or find a spot in a home or a building somewhere, and there would be one colony in that location. The way backyard beekeepers and even commercial beekeepers keep bees traditionally is on a hive stand where they may have 2 or 3 or even maybe a few dozen hives right beside each other. And when you start with all of your hives, typically most of the hives are all one color if you start with the all white box, and the bees actually benefit from having an image, something on each of the hive boxes on the front to help them visually distinguish which colony is there. So a bee would naturally drift around in front of the line of hives, waiting to smell the actual pheromone from its colony. But to assist them so they don't drift too much or they don't go into the wrong colony, we allow people to paint the front of our hive boxes, and that assists them so that whatever the design is, no matter how simple it is or how ornate it is, the bees, when they're coming in, they can see this hive body right here has a very clear pattern, a very clear image on it, and this one would not. And so it helps the bees actually more quickly disseminate which hive is there so they go into the right colony, and so that when they do go in, they're accepted well, because the guard bees that are down here at the entrance waiting oftentimes will fight them off and send them on their way. And so this just keeps a really good peaceful environment within a person's apiary so that the bees can live a good, healthy, and calm and quiet life. We are going to be here in Greenfield on May 20th, and we're going to be here for the Greenfield Bee Fest. And so of course the Bee Fest is right here in the Greenfield common area, and we will have roughly 20 or more of these blank white beehives ready for anybody in the community to come out and paint and to show their artistic ability. No matter how basic or how ornate you want to paint, we are going to allow you to, each person to have one panel on each of the boxes to paint.
A common thing when we say support your local pollinators and whatnot is plant a garden, and that's very true, but what most people don't understand is that that doesn't mean plant a couple daffodils so that there will be color in the spring and then nothing else in the fall. You need to plant something that's going to bloom constantly. So that means having things like bulbs in the spring, maybe have some shrubbing bushes in the summer, have stuff like goldenrod in the fall, like have things that bloom back to back to back so the bees always have food. It's not just like you have food now while it's pretty, but then later you're not going to have everything. They need something that stretches, which is what happens in the wild. Is in nature you don't just see one big flush of blooms and then nothing else. Things come like one at a time. There's a season for everything. And so making sure that you're planting a good garden that's really supportive to bees, that's really important. And having variety in your garden, as well as not using chemicals. Bees can be harmed by chemicals, which is true of most pollinators. And it's important to make sure that in pest management, which is a necessary part of gardening, of course, you're not getting rid of pollinators as well.
Greenfield is kind of ground zero for beekeeping. It happens that our minister, our 6th minister of Second Congregational Church, was the Reverend Lorenzo Langstroth. And he was brilliant. He was a scientist as well as a minister. And he discovered the way that bees move within a hive, and then developed the movable frame beehive. So the beekeepers can take out the frame, scrape off the honey, put it back in, and it's very recyclable, if you will. So with that invention that he created, modern agriculture has changed 1,000%. And so we are very grateful to him for this invention, and Bee Fest started because of him, to honor his rich accomplishments. The Bee Fest is our 13th year this year. It'll be May 20th, a Saturday from 9 to 12, and it is so much fun. We hope everybody who's watching this can come. We have a lot of activities for children. Adults can learn about how to take care of bees, other native pollinators, and how to provide a healthy background for them so that we can all survive this planet, because they produce all of the needs that we have to eat fresh fruits and vegetables.